your money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of Fockers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Friday, May 31st. We are here live. It is a Friday free-for-all. I'm just going to go ahead and bring in the crew today, but the crew's a little light today. Henry, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today, Kevin?
Good. Did anybody inform you? So Joel and Alec just ditched us, and I made an executive decision at the last minute. If they can take the day off, so can I. So I got the show started for you, but you're on your own today.
Wow. No worries.
You've got it. No problem.
What could go wrong?
That's right. What could go wrong? I'm not giving you any of the buttons, so that could be a little bit of a challenge. We'll figure it out. I think I'll stay, but it's just you and I today.
Well, it can't be any worse than my thought that I have right now.
What's that?
That more people should be owner-operators, more importantly, independent owner-operators. And the reason I say that, I got to looking at Facebook post, and it was funny. The one person, well, I'm finishing polishing up my truck on my restart. Wait a minute. If you're polishing your truck, you're not on a restart.
Come on, details. Details.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other one I got to see, I had to go up to the grocery store and a lot of trucks parked there. And I witnessed a guy disabling the company's collision mitigation system.
Those buzzers and
you should own the truck.
Henry, those buzzers and lights are just annoying. Come on.
Yeah, I understand. That's why you have your own truck at that point.
That's right. I don't disagree.
You were hired to drive the truck as they prescribe, not as you prescribe.
That's correct. That is correct. And it is one of the reasons.
Disagree with that, you have a decision to make, right?
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons I made a decision when I was about 15 years old. I got my first job at 14, and at 15 I decided I didn't want to work for anybody else anymore, and I really haven't since then. I mean, I did my military thing, but other than that, I've never really had a job, and that's why. I don't like taking orders from other people, and I don't like a lot of rules unless I make them myself. So you're right. You have a decision to make. But if you make a decision to be an employee, and if I did, I would be the best damn employee I could be. And that would mean I'd have to do things the way somebody else wants it done, and that's why I don't do that. But you shouldn't make the choice to be an employee and then try to do everything your way.
I'll never forget, I was at an open house at a dealership, and they had a truck in there, and the driver had gotten fired and it was a brand new truck, mind you, but he cut all sorts of wires to the sensors they had on the truck. He drilled holes to mount stuff inside the truck and changed out the seats.
That's a little extreme.
It was the most extreme one I ever saw. I'm like, wait a minute.
I had an experience with this. So it was after I had moved out of Florida, but still had my contract in Orlando. So kind of running it long distance, but I had it for years. Good drivers. It wasn't hard to run it from a distance. And then I got down to Orlando. I think we had a run selection where everybody comes in and bids on new runs. So I was in Orlando, and I'm looking over all my trucks. And this driver, he was a really good driver, really good. I mean, I never worried about him safety-wise. He was always on time. He would fix little things on the truck. He was really mechanical. But have you ever known mechanics or people who do this kind of stuff that they take things apart, do something, and then never really completely put them back together?
Yeah.
That was this guy. And he was into all kinds of different radios. So my dash was always tore apart because he'd always have white. Now, he never drilled holes or did any kind of permanent damage. But every time I would get in the truck, I would have to just think, okay, take a deep breath. He drives it every day. The dash would be half apart and things would be wired up. And I just kind of put up with that because he was a really good driver and he had worked for me for years. So I go in and I'm looking at my trucks and I'm walking up to the back of one of my trucks. I've got wide singles and I'm looking at the tires and I'm like, how the hell does a tire wear like that? It had a big dip in the middle. Like the tread on the outside stood up and the tread in the center was a big dip. I'm like, that is bizarre. How does a tire even wear like that? So I started looking. I probably called Mike Beckett because I've known Mike forever. And Mike would have told me, Kevin, how fast does that truck go? And I would have said, Mike, my trucks are all governed. That one goes 62. And Mike said, it hasn't been going 62 lately. Somebody must be going down a lot of really big hills really fast. He said, here's what happens. When a wide single spins fast enough, just like a dragster tire when they take off, they get skinnier and stand up. And that's how you wear out the center only. I thought, how is that even physically possible that happens? But it's because the tire misshapes at high speeds and it stands up and the center crowns and then you wear off that tread. And I said, Mike, how fast do you have to be going? And he said, usually more than 70. And I said, well, that's odd. So I got in the truck and I took the truck out on the interstate. And sure enough, I got it up to about 85 before I decided to slow down. So I called him up and I said, what's going on? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, why are my tires worn so funny when the only way you could do that to a wide single is drive it faster than 70? He said, I meant to tell you, the last time it came out of the shop, which had been months ago, it just did this. So I had a really, really tough decision to make, but, I don't think it happened in the shop, but even if it did, he knows my policies on fuel mileage, all that stuff. The fact that he just didn't tell me and he just ran this thing that hard, I fired him. That to me, when you know because I was really clear with my drivers about fuel mileage, costs, all those things, and I share all the savings with them. And I hadn't been watching my numbers, or I would have caught it in fuel mileage, but I wasn't paying attention. But I had to fire him over that.
Yep.
That's just wrong.
Yep.
It's just wrong.
So that's my thought of the day is more people should probably be driving their own truck.
With their own authority. And that's a change for me. For a lot of years, I said, look, go lease to a carrier. It's like having training wheels. You get to learn half the business at a time, which is an advantage. Go work for a carrier and do nothing but focus on controlling your expenses. And then when you're really good at that, let's go tackle the other half of the business, which is getting your authority. And now we can work on your revenue.
Right. Well, I'll never forget. I had owner-operator leased to me back when I was flatbedder. And in this case, I find out Monday he's talking to me that a friend of his pulling a low boy broke down, had a big dozer on it, and he went out and hooked up to the trailer and finished the run for him. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I said, you realize you're on my authority when you did that?
Yeah.
I said, it was a great act that you did. I understand, you were helping out a friend and all that. I said, but I wouldn't have been insured for that. He says, well, it doesn't matter. I was pulling it with my truck. I said, no, you're not understanding.
Right.
That truck's insured by me with my name on the door.
Yeah. Yeah. Which brings up a good point.
I said, if he called me, I said, I would have called and made the arrangements. I said, because it was a noble thing you did, but
Right.
don't do that again.
Yeah, we could have done it right had you just said something, and you put my entire company at risk by doing this, which is kind of, I guess, going to turn into the theme for the day. I'm with you. I think more people should attempt to be owner operators. Give it a shot. If you do it right, if you do it right, if you go through my program, I'll do a little commercial here for the CMC and my coaching program. If you do it right, if you go through the right process, the beginning of all my programs, I spend a lot of time trying to talk people out of it first. And then I go through all their
Right.
finances to show them whether or not they are financially ready to do this. And between those two things, I talk more people out of it, which is good. If I can talk you out of it, you should be talked out of it. Because what I mean by that
Absolutely.
is, when I decided I was going to buy a truck, nobody could have talked me out of it. And maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. I wouldn't have listened to anybody. I would have just done it.
You're kind of hard-headed like I am.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do try to talk people out of it. And my thought is, if I can talk you out of this, you shouldn't be doing it. Or
Well, that's
or at
always
least you're
what I
not
do
ready.
with them.
And
When they go to buy a truck, I always tell them, once you buy a truck, you're no longer a truck driver. You're a business owner that
big
drives a
difference.
truck.
Big difference, too. And that's the problem. They don't make that shift. And it really all comes down to education. I mean, here we had the guy that did that to you, I do not believe had any bad intent. He
No,
was
it
ignorant.
was noble. That's why I didn't
Right.
let go.
Right. He was
was
he was ignorant of how the industry worked. He should have known that he's under your authority and your liability insurance. He should know that, but he didn't. And then he made what could have been a really big mistake and hurt a lot of people over just ignorance is all it is. We need a lot more education. So I had an article today I wanted to talk about. It was from Alex Lockey over at Overdrive, and it's survey asks who's hauling cheap freight. So they did a survey. Who's hauling cheap freight? My question, though, let me see if they. So here's how they determine this. The survey considered loads that are on the edge of or below a carrier's profitability level. So asked if they ever hauled a load that lost money, a majority of the nearly 600 respondents said they had, while 38% said they had not. I am going to guess that there were a lot more people correct in the 38% group that said they had never hauled a load that lost money. What do you think?
reframe that. You lost me a little bit there.
Well, it's tough, and here's why. And this is the point of this. In order to know that you lost money on a single load, you would have to know all of your cost per mile, and then you would simply compare the two. What are all of your costs per mile, and is that rate really less than your costs? It's rare. It's really rare. Unless you've got outrageously high costs, which does happen, especially in the last couple of years. But it's still more rare than common.
I'd go with it's very rare, but my caveat to that is, which I learned from the very beginning with especially the way my runs were with the flatbed, I went into a lot of areas where it was super cheap leaving if you found anything.
Correct.
You made your money going in.
Yeah, I don't even want to get to that yet. I don't even want to get to that yet.
That was all profit.
Right. That's the advanced class. We got to get to the basics here. If we are going to do
that load by itself was a loser.
Was it actually paying less than your cost per mile?
Yeah, there was cases during the wintertime when we were
Okay.
going to New
So,
England
and here's
where that would be the case.
here's what I mean by that. And
But I
then
knew that.
there's one more thing we're going to have to clarify. But let's give an example. If you know your cost per mile is $1.31, which would be really high, but we'll come back and we can talk about that too, then the load would have to pay $1.30 a mile or less in order for you to lose money. If it paid $1.32 and your costs are $1.31, you did not lose money.
No,
That's all I'm
absolutely.
getting to is most people define these loads as a loss and they're incorrect many times. But here's the other caveat that nobody ever talks about. I do not include drivers' wages and costs. That
Okay.
But I know that, and I tell people that when I'm putting the numbers up there. And then everybody screams, well, you have to. Okay, I will agree. We can do it that way if we want to compare. But who gets to decide what the driver pay should be? That's the number that screws everybody up if you don't come to an agreement that when we're going to compare costs or talk about whether a load is profitable or not, what number do we use for driver's wages?
Right.
And
Well,
nobody
'cause
ever
where mine
talks
was
about
always
that.
different. I always had myself paid a salary.
Correct. But that's your salary.
Right.
So if the guy next to you takes a lower salary or he takes a per mile, we can no longer compare your two numbers for profitability. We have a
Right.
mismatch. That's a variable that doesn't match because it is a random number.
Right.
It's your operation. My thought has always been my driver wage is everything that's left over after I pay all my expenses. Whatever's left over is
Right.
mine. That's what I get paid to drive the
Well,
truck. But now also in my accounting, I count for future maintenance and depreciation and equipment replacement. So those costs are built in when I look at my cost. But the driver wage is we have to come to an agreement. We either leave it out, which is easier, and then we are only comparing the cost of operating the vehicle. That's really what we should be looking at. Because I could say, look, this load isn't profitable. But this week, I'm willing to drive for 38 cents a mile instead of 52, so now it's profitable. See how you could play with that all day long?
absolutely.
But so let's go through some of the numbers here. Here's how they asked, what was the reason that you took a load? Let's just say low paying, because I don't like the claiming that these loads are not profitable. So 2% said it beats sitting. That was their reason. Okay. I'm glad that was only 2%. The largest category, I have some hope here. 29% to reposition to a better demand area. Well, at least we're thinking to get home. Not a bad one either. And I like this one. Only 9% of the people said this. But I'm surprised this one even made the list. Trying to do a broker or shipper a favor for future opportunity. That's a good one.
Sure it is.
Now, this one, I'm a little confused about this one. I'm glad this one's only 4%. I underestimated my true cost. How do you screw that up? It's not like we have to calculate a profitability on every single load. If you just do your accounting every month, and if you have a software package like ours that gives you a cost per mile, all you do is look at your report. You know what your cost is at any given time. How do you underestimate?
Well, and Kevin, that's what I had always done. Well, it was more in the past than when I was on this stuff that I'm on now. But when I was flatbedding back then, I always figured, what did I turn for every mile I ran
Right.
for the week?
Correct. Right.
Not load.
That's
that load the whole week.
That's how we should look at this, and that's how you do your accounting. And if you do that, you should be able to look at a profit and loss or a business report and say, my cost per mile is X. That's it. And I know that. Hell, I should know it if you wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how you. I don't know how you look at a load, underestimate your cost, and then figure out you lost money. That doesn't even make sense to me.
Well, I used to have the hardest time with my owner operators showing them that some of those cheaper loads, with how it worked out on their week, those were 100% profit.
Yeah, right.
Because you figured how your freight was going in, and you
Yeah.
knew that in that
Hey,
case you knew 1 to 2. Sometimes it was one, depending on the time of the year. 1 time out of 3 you'd leave empty. Sometimes 2 out of 3 you'd leave empty in the worst part of the year.
yeah.
But when you got something, it was pure profit.
Hey, I just thought of a scenario where I guess you could underestimate your cost. I did think of one. If it happens to you, it should only happen once. But if you were to take a load that happened to need to go across the Pennsylvania Turnpike and you didn't know how much that could cost you, you could severely underestimate your cost. Henry? Did we lose Henry?
Yes,
Oh, there you are. Try
yes,
again.
you'd only do that once.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you realize, and I remember that shock. I lived and grew up and started my trucking business in Northeast Ohio, not far. And I was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike just about every week. I mean, from where I went and where I was going, it was the Turnpike. And you just had to suck it up and pay it. But I thought it was outrageously expensive back then. I was shocked when I looked at it recently. That's crazy.
Well, even that, my big one was going into Jersey and you had to pay to leave.
Yeah.
In the one case, there was a way to use the turnpike that was way cheaper than using the bridges back then. I don't run that anymore, so I'm not familiar with how it is.
Well,
But
the way
a lot of people, I know the turnpike, but it was cheaper and I missed a bunch of traffic.
I remember it is it seems like I got screwed every week because if I were going into New York, going across the bridge, going in, you only paid going in on that bridge. Then a lot of my return freight was south from there. So when you went out the south way, that bridge was the opposite. You only paid going out instead of in. So I got screwed in both directions.
Right.
That was common for me every week. Yeah. Plus the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Yeah.
So tolls used to be
Well,
a very significant part of my operation.
when we ran New York up into there, it was always in the bottom, out the top.
Yeah. Yep. I know. So
It did that back. That was a much bit. Matter of fact, my owner operators, they had discovered a way because we were picking up at a place. I want to say it was over in Massachusetts, but it's a while ago, right? And they found a ferry to take that was cheaper.
So I love this. I just saw a quote from the article. This is kind of my point. All these people saying, well, I did it because of my cost per mile. I'm a little suspicious of that. Here's why. I've been asking this question since the first time I got on stage in 1999. When I'm in front of an audience doing a seminar, webinar, whatever, very common question for me, how many of you in this room right now could tell me your cost per mile on your operation? Meaning, you know, your cost per mile for fuel, your overall cost per mile, all of those things. And I always say, before you raise your hand, I might call on you. So to me, if you don't raise your hand and you think you have your number, well, then raise your hand. But most people don't. Here's the shocking number about this statistic. First time I asked this question, less than 5% of the room raised their hand. That has not changed in 30 years. That's still about the response I get. Less than 5% of the room. When you really hold their feet to the fire and say, look, I might ask you to see the numbers, then you see an awful lot of people go, oh, yeah, well, maybe I don't really know my that's shocking to me. But here's a quote from this. The survey also included comments from respondents. To determine if a load is cheap, it helps to know one's cost per mile. Well, wait a minute. It doesn't help. It is 100% necessary. To determine a load is cheap, it helps to know your... No, it doesn't help. You can't know if a load is cheap if you don't know your cost per mile. So that's a weird comment. Then somebody else said one commenter highlighted that challenge, stating, almost every owner operator in my segment of trucking that I've asked what their cost per mile to operate was looked at me as if I were growing a third eye right in front of them. I completely agree. That's been my experience forever. That single truck owner operators are horrible at accounting, and almost none of them know their numbers.
Well, Kevin, I'm going to have to ask you to take up a little bit of time talking because I got to carry some stuff out to my Jeep.
Got it.
But
we have calls. I'll go take them.
When I hear when I hear about Alec and how well he knows his numbers,
yeah,
it makes me feel like I need to do a lot of work.
Alec's on it. They just Overdrive just did a great article on Alec. I posted it. Alec, and they chose Alpha drivers as their driver of the month. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I got the level where he is.
Oh,
and I know him personally.
Yeah.
Most large companies are not on his scale.
I'm starting to believe that Alec might really just be AI. Uh-oh. When I said that, Henry just dropped right off. All right, whatever. He's got to go do something anyway. I'm sure he'll be back here in a little bit. Alec is really, really good with numbers. I know people think that I'm a numbers guy, but I've told you for years I'm not. I push through that stuff. I would rather not ever have to do that, really. I do not enjoy it. I've come to not hate it because I know how important it is and how much it helps me. But now in my business, I don't have to look at my numbers all that often in this business. And I don't, because I really don't like to. Alec is he's a numbers guy. He's good at this stuff. He digs way deeper into numbers and analyzes, and is a great partner for Joel. That's why Alpha Drivers is doing so many cool things. Let's go to Illinois. Lyle, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good. Hey, I think we've got Henry back. Henry, I saw you dropped off there, and I know you got to go do something, but I brought you back in here. So you can just go mute yourself or do whatever you've got to do.
No, I'm back.
Oh, that was quick. All right, we've got a call on the line. Lyle, go ahead.
So I bought a Volvo truck with a Volvo engine in November last year. I put about 65, 70,000 on it, and it had some issues. So one at a time with the codes I had 9 codes when I got the truck. I found a deal online that shows all the Volvo codes, so I went through each of those as it brought them up and did what it said to fix it. And I replaced several things, or replaced the air-to-air, replaced a lot of the sensors, so that at the moment, my code is no longer throwing any codes of any kind. But, for example, day before yesterday, it asked me to regen 6 times.
Ooh.
Well, I can't make deliveries and regen 6 times in a day.
No, you can't.
So I don't know what's happening. I'd like to know what that means. I've never driven a truck with DEF before, so I'm learning all this. I need to know what that looks like,
so
why I'm having that kind of an issue, etc.
I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to be able to help you with that specific code. And a lot of times, almost nobody can until we put a reader on there, and readers can be different, and there's ghost codes, and codes are not as easy or straightforward as they should be, or sometimes is the way people think they are. So even a lot of times we have Leroy on here, and Leroy works with codes all day long. And if you give him a code, he might not be able to tell you right away what it is. And sometimes not even an easy search. It seems to me like they should make that process better, but I can't help you with the code at all. One of the things we could do.
Okay, wait, hang on a minute.
Go ahead.
I don't have any codes right now.
Oh, that's right.
It's asking me to regen with
yeah.
no code.
Well, again, I don't know anything about that. Yeah. Now, that's something Leroy could probably help us with. I'm not even sure, Henry, I've never really heard Joel talk a whole lot about codes. I'm not sure he gets into a lot of that, but he may. One of the things we can do is look at the specs and see, is there some reason this truck might be struggling with emissions? Because if you spec a truck wrong, if you drive it wrong, not even knowing that you're driving it wrong, we could have emission issues. How many miles? What year is it? How many miles?
2015 D13 Volvo engine, 264 rears. It's got 987,000 on it right now.
Okay. When you're driving this truck at highway speed or where you spend the most time, what RPM are you at?
Right now I'm driving right at 65. I'm at 1150 RPM.
It's not horrible for that engine. You get up around 1,400, which I see a lot of them running around like that, and now the engine just doesn't hold enough heat, which is hard on the emissions. That the down sped, when we run an engine down in those lower RPM ranges, we hold more heat. It's good for the emissions. This one isn't horrible, though. What happens? So it keeps telling you have to regen. What happens if you don't regen?
Well, that's what I was saying. So I wrote down day before yesterday when it asked me to regen, in other words, what time, and it said park regen needed. And then I wrote down when it quit or when the regen light disappeared.
Okay.
And most of that time, it would be 20 minutes. It might be 40 minutes.
But
it never went over an hour.
Is it
and
ever?
It would disappear.
And it's never down rating.
Never. Well, in a sense, it down rated, but not 5 miles an hour. It said at next stop. One time it'd say it's going to derate in 60 minutes. It'll derate in 120 minutes.
But it doesn't.
Whatever.
Right.
But it never did make me know.
So that's where I think this may be not exactly a ghost code, because it's not a code, but this may just, the message itself may be the fault. What I'm saying is that it's a false reading. It's a false message, because if this thing,
that's what I want.
Right, if it truly needed to do a parked regen or it's going to derate, then it would do that, but it's not, and it just keeps doing this over and over, but the truck's running normally. So I think it's the message itself is the error.
Well, with the amount of miles that are on his truck, when was the last time that the DPF filters were replaced? Because it may be just due. It's something around the miles where be ready for its second.
There's a couple things we can do here, but one, we just want to find out if this is correct. Does this thing really need to regen? And if it does, then we definitely need to look at the DPF and either have it clean, serviced, the works, not just blown out, or replaced. One of the two. The other question I would ask: can you take
apart the filter, or is it being cut apart?
Well, no, but Pittsburgh Power has a system where they do like 7 different procedures to that thing, and they get it really clean again. So, but you can't really take it apart, but there are a lot of processes you can use to clean it out. When you see all the machines they use to go through all these processes, it's pretty crazy, but it works really well.
Yeah.
As long as the DPF itself isn't damaged, you can do a lot of cleaning on it and not have to replace it. The other thing I would ask, are you running Catalyst?
Run Catalyst from day one.
Good. That's why I think this is not really an issue. Or it is an issue of Henry might be on the right track here. The DPF itself might be damaged and we might be getting that message. Or the message just could be wrong.
Where can you look to tell that, or what do you do to tell whether it's damaged or not?
You've got to get somebody to take it off and inspect it. I mean, you can't even really do that process on the truck. It's got to come off. And
they can do a test that says how it's flowing.
Yeah, you can look at the pressure differentials, but that may
Right.
not tell us if it's damaged.
No.
So I think because you don't know this truck, you bought it used, we don't know the history. My recommendation right now would be get to a good shop, and it doesn't really need to be a Volvo shop. Pittsburgh Power could handle this. They can track down that code for you, and they have the process for cleaning the DPF. There are the same process they have. It's kind of like they use a third party process, and that company has locations all over the country. So you wouldn't have to get to Pittsburgh Power, but I would get to a DPF Alternatives.
Okay. My fuel mileage has went up some. It has a lifetime of 7.8. I have never got close. I'm a step deck, a lot of different sizes of loads, so I've never reached 7.8. I've got up to 7.5, 7.3 on light loads. But
Yeah. No, I'm not hearing anything that would make me believe there's any big issue here. But I
okay,
would
well,
get
I just have to get it
I would get the DPF
Normal
serviced.
serviced. Okay. I was thinking that max mileage would clean all that out.
And it may have, and that's why this may just be a false code, or the DPF may be damaged. And at some point, all the cleaning and all the catalyst isn't going to help that. If it's damaged, it's damaged.
You have to replace it. What's the difference between the round can and the square can? What's the difference in those two units
I have no
As far
clue.
as the
and what they
builder,
do?
not that big of a difference. It's just how they have the unit put together.
Hey,
The actual builders know the difference if you had them out.
Henry, I'm not sure what happened, but you sound like you're a half a mile away from your phone.
Well, it's sort of close to right. I'm on speakerphone. I'm on my way home. So
Are you driving from the back seat?
no, but
Sounds like it.
anyway, the filters themselves, there's not much difference between what they refer to as the one box or the round can. All
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
The actual filter looks pretty much the same.
Which-
If you just have one laying there, you wouldn't know which it went to.
Right.
Which one do you usually have to replace, the one box or the round can?
Well,
It's neither.
the DPF, we have DPFs on either truck, whether you have a one box or not. The difference is in a one box, it's part of the one box, and you really can't take the box apart. And there's other components of the emission system in there. So that's kind of been the complaint. Henry, Freightliner is the only one with the one box, right?
No.
No? Who else does it?
Volvo's, I think Volvo's headed that way too.
Well, yeah, they do look to be headed that way. The DPF filter can be replaced separately if it's not in a one box.
Right. Well, no, it can be replaced separately in a one box.
Oh,
too. The only
Right.
what happens is if they damage the precious metals,
Right.
whether it's a one box or the other one, right? That's what destroys it, and that's
So-
usually caused by something upstream, like an overfueling injector.
Yeah.
So, unless that happens, there's not much that can go wrong with it. It's a fairly simple piece of equipment.
It really is, and we do know how to
Well, so
clean
this-
them. But here's the other thing we could do that might give us some more information on this is just pull the history out of the ECM on regens. I mean, we know every regen that truck's ever done from day one, and it's in the ECM. We can go back in there and pull it, and we might see that it's had a history of this problem or not.
And if it starts becoming more frequent, it usually just means it's time for the
Yeah,
DPF
To-
filters to be replaced.
right. Or cleaned.
Which is
So that's
usually
the
about-
round part, not the square one.
Yeah,
Right.
It's usually about the cost of getting a fuel injector job done on the truck.
You say it'll need a fuel injector job?
Do what?
You say it will need a fuel injector job?
No, it shouldn't.
I said it's usually about the same cost
Yeah.
if you replace the DPF filter as getting fuel injectors done to the truck.
Oh, I see. Okay. So can you pull that information from the truck itself, or do you have to have a computer?
You have to have
APF or the regen.
yeah, you have to have a reader.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. That's kind of what my question was. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. All right, let's go to Washington. Tom, welcome.
Good morning.
What's on your mind today?
So I am a disabled truck driver. I'm above knee amputee. And with the FMCSA, you've got to go through a different type of physical called the skills performance evaluation. And you still have to do your regular, which every trucker has to do, is your regular DOT
Right.
physical.
Okay.
Now the problem that I'm having, and I went to school for almost 8 months just because I couldn't get this skills performance evaluation done through the federal government. Now, because I'm an interstate license, I live in Idaho and I work in Washington, and I work for an agricultural company, and I'm crossing the border a lot. And I have no restrictions.
Okay.
So working manual is common for me. The problem I'm having is, one, finding an orthopedic surgeon, or what they call a physiatrist, to sign off on my skills performance evaluation, which once again is a functional capacity examination, which is a 4.5 hour examination.
Oh, okay.
It's 4.5 hours. And
my first thought here, and I may or may not be able to help you. This isn't an area I've really spent much time in, but I may have some ideas for you. My first thought, though, is this seems like the process has been way overly complicated.
It's more than overly complicated. It's almost you almost feel like you're being discriminated against.
That's what I mean.
Even attempt.
Look, how hard is it for a reasonable human being to know whether or not you could drive a clutch or not? Or this should not be that hard to figure out. I'm wondering what they can possibly do for 4 hours.
Well, I mean, they're doing steering capacity, stress levels. They're doing.
Why?
They have me pushing 200 because you're driving a truck.
No, I know, but there's nothing wrong with your arms, are there? You don't steer with your feet.
No. Well, my left arm is a little bit shorter than my right arm. I did lose in my motorcycle accident back in 1990, and I'm a highly active person.
That's what I mean. That's kind of what I mean. You sound like a really capable person, and a logical human being should be able to look at you, talk to you, do a physical exam, especially a doctor, and not have to go through all of this, and not have to have all these specialized tests and people. And once again, it's just the government makes a mess out of just about everything. I swear.
And it's not even that. I have got to do this every 2 years.
I know. That's kind of my point. Why every 2 years? I mean, I would assume that the longer you're disabled, the better you get at it.
And I've been disabled since 1990.
That's what I mean. I see you should still take your physical. All this makes sense, but not yours, and not where it's so specialized that you are now having trouble finding somebody to do it.
Well, not even so specialized. It's you go through the FMCSA and you try and get this paperwork and try and get answers from them.
That's what I mean.
You can
I
go
know
down
how
there
frustrating that is.
and they are angry about it.
Yeah.
They talk down to you.
This is my experience with almost all government offices of any kind. We've all had all of these experiences. It's rare when you get somebody who actually treats you like a human being. And do you know why they can do that? Do you know why they have this reputation? And they have it for a reason. We're not making this up. When you deal with government agencies, people have bad attitudes way worse than anywhere else I see. And do you know why?
I have no idea why.
Because they can. They have no competition. If I go to a truck shop and somebody treats me like that, well, you're never getting another penny from me. There's 10 other shops I can go get my truck fixed at. Anytime we have to deal with the government, they have a monopoly. They can treat us any way they want. We have no choice. We can't go somewhere else. We should not have to interact with the government as much as we do. That's how you solve this. You're never going to solve the fact that that's how people will act, because there's no consequences to them acting that way. So the solution is we should not have to interact with the government this much. And that's kind of my point. They've overcomplicated this process, and this process does not make anybody safer.
Exactly. And the big thing is, if you're an intrastate license, you're going through your state.
Well,
you don't have to go through this
right.
type of.
But now you are crossing a state line,
federal,
and all you have to do is cross one state line, and now you're under federal jurisdiction, which is what you're dealing with. So, I'm not sure if we ever really got to the question or not. Is it just you need help finding somebody, or is there another question?
Well, it's not. I mean, yeah, finding somebody, that would be fantastic. Now, I did get in touch with the congressman, and surprisingly, they did get back to me, and I had to sign a release form so they can go to the FMCSA and get my records. I'm waiting to hear back what happens with that. But I am actually trying to get to even more disabled people that are out there, because this is a nation show and everything, and the discriminations that are going against us. I'm afraid to become an owner-operator.
You know what's funny?
I don't
mean funny, ha. Our government has very, very strict rules, overly complicated again, but they have very, very strict rules about how we treat disabled people for a reason. Businesses have to make it easily accessible, and the government is big on that. They have a lot of rules. And it sounds to me like the government might be the number one abuser of this category. They don't even follow their own damn rules.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's awful.
And the American Disabilities Act, and I even understand, and I am more than willing to do the skills performance evaluation. I'm fine with that. I understand why they're doing it. I've worked in the health field for the past 23 years designing artificial limbs and orthotics.
Wow.
And the reason I did that is because I think of every single step I have to take.
Yeah. No, I
think
get
everybody
it.
does.
Right.
I'm so used to it that it's like I look at a person walking down the street and I'm wondering what side's missing. It's just common to me.
Right. Yeah.
And if nothing is missing, I can tell that as well.
I'm sure. Right.
But and the complications and the battles of getting my CDL and wanting becoming an owner operator, and whether, because I live so close to the Idaho and Washington state line, I mean, it's 6 miles away.
Right.
It doesn't make sense for me to have an intrastate license.
No, not at all. And honestly, I will tell you, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but there are far, far less opportunities for single truck or small carriers in intrastate. Some states, not so much. Washington, I would not be excited about trying to run a small fleet intrastate only, unless I had some real connection to some really great
Ag-
freight. I mean, that's a tough model.
well, agricultural's real.
One of the few containers you can do. There's a couple, but a lot of them don't pay all that well either.
No, they don't. I'm running a real old belt trailer right now.
Which
I'm
is
getting paid hourly on that.
which is common in these local operations. You just tend to run older equipment because one, you can, and two, the revenue many times doesn't support new equipment. So again, if this is kind of a compliance issue, I'm that's really not my area at all. If there's a direct question I could help you with, I'll try. But this compliance stuff kind of makes me crazy too.
Well, it's how I'm getting ready to lose my job in October if I can't get this test done.
So
And
let me kind of anticipate the question here. If the question for me, and this one I can really help you with, you've mentioned wanting to become an owner operator. I can help you with all of that, absolutely every step,
Yes.
and we'll deal with the issues of the compliance. I can help you with all of that. But here's my first piece of advice. If October is the deadline, we're in June already. You got to make that decision pretty darn quick. And I'll help you down that path, but you can't wait much longer. You got to kind of decide, and if that's your decision, I'll help you with it. We'll put you on a path. We'll get you there. But if you start thinking about that and you come back to me in August, my answer in August is probably going to be, I don't think we're going to be ready by October. Not if we do it right. Now, you could go out tomorrow and buy a truck if you want, and a lot of people do it, but it's a big mistake. If you take the time to plan for this and do things right, and I'm going to say most people I'd like to have at least 3 and sometimes 6 months, and I'd rather have a little bit of extra time because you have this other issue we have to deal with.
Right. That is, right now, what I'm thinking, and I started doing this a couple of months ago because I knew it took, like I said earlier, I ended up going to school for almost 8 months.
Yeah.
For an 8-week course, but the school that I went to, Drive 509 in Washington, allowed me to keep on coming back, and to the point where I was almost one of the instructors.
That's actually pretty cool. I like that. I'll bet you learned a lot during that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it wasn't a great thing. It's kind of sucks that you had to do that, but at least there was a positive to it. You got a lot more experience, so that's good. And becoming an owner operator for you is really not that much more challenging than anybody else. You've already been through all of the challenges of your disability. You've been doing this a long time. Like you said, you're really active. You've overcome all this. None of that really changes anything in my mind.
And the experience of starting off in the winters and running northeast or northwest.
Honestly,
winters and the hills and everything else like that.
Here's what I would tell you.
Excellent learning experience.
Yeah. Here's what I would tell you about your disability and the fact that you've dealt with it for so long and you've overcome it in a lot of ways. And to me, that's now a plus. Being in business is really difficult. It is. It's hard. You have to sacrifice things. You've been through really hard things that none of us can even imagine. Mm-hmm. That prepares you for this. So in my mind, it would be easier for me to make you a successful owner operator than a lot of other people I deal with.
Because of the dedication.
Because of what you've been through.
To change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
What you've been through
Right.
tells me a lot about you and your character and your spirit, and that's a plus to me now.
Okay. Okay. So is there any way of and like I said, we wrote the congressman. They got back to me. Signed the paperwork to have my FMCSA paperwork all sent to them, and they said that, well, we're going to try and help. We're going to try and help. We'll see if that happens. But I am petrified now that I'm getting ready to lose my $700,000 home.
No,
that we
I
just bought, and
I get it. Now, here's what I would recommend. I can help you with all of this, even the compliance issues, even though that's not kind of my thing and I don't answer a lot of compliance questions on the air. Here's what I would recommend. I have a group coaching program. It's $75 a month.
Okay.
You can start and stop anytime you want. You could sign up for it today, and we do a group coaching call every Thursday. So you get 4 calls a month for $75. You submit any
Okay.
question you want to me, even if it's about compliance. I'll go do the research and I'll help you with it. And I can start you on the process of becoming an owner operator in the coaching program, help you figure out, do you really want to do this? Are you financially ready to do this? And can we pull it off by October? That would be the first thing we would start working on in the coaching group. And if we determine that you can make it by October, then I do have a program, my CMC program, that is ongoing. It's all year long. And on that program, we meet every
Right.
2 weeks. And the whole point of that program is I will walk you step by step through everything you have to know about how to buy that truck, get it set up, negotiate for it, find the carrier, or get your authority, whatever we decide is better for you. The program will take you all the way through that entire process.
Yes, and I've been listening to you for the past couple of months. I mean, I just found you about 2 months ago, and I've been listening to you every day. And
Thank you.
I've gone through all your old shows and everything else, and I just think it's absolutely wonderful. And the different people that you partner with, the steptoe and stuff.
Yeah.
You just learn so much information. And as you're driving down the road, hauling I shouldn't be hauling 110, but that's what happens.
That's right.
On 2-lane roads and back street and in the snow and everything.
Yep.
You're paying attention to what's going on. You're feeling everything that's happening.
That's right.
And as well as your going into your foods you're eating, and I'm very much into your entire podcast.
Good, thank you.
And learning tremendous amounts, especially being a brand new truck driver.
Right.
I'm at the end of my first 2 years with P&W, which is Pacific Northwest Farmers Co-op.
Got it. Okay.
And they've been excellent with me. They've been very conducive in helping me in any way that I needed. But you are thrown into the fire. You go through a couple of weeks of training. It's like, well, here's your truck.
That's the trucking industry. Yeah, that's the trucking industry. My trial by fire was even a little more extreme than that. Let me give you my start. Now, I grew up in trucking, so it helped a little bit. But I'll tell you, this was still a rough way to get started. Because I had everybody in my family was in trucking, I had connections. I could have skipped driving school completely. I had enough people that could have taught me how to drive a truck, and I had been around equipment all my life. But I had my VA benefits. There was a 2-week school near where I live, so I decided to go over it, and I'm glad I did. It was 2 weeks that really kind of got me up to speed pretty quick. But here's how I started in my driving career. One of my older brothers, who was an owner operator, had been with a carrier, Spartan Express. They were part of Roadway, and they did local P&D work. So 20 to 30 stops a day. You make a bunch of deliveries. In the middle of making your deliveries, they start calling you with pickups. You got to be moving freight around. You got to back in and out of crazy docks all day long. So I said, okay, I'll go over and talk to him. And he's, but here's the thing: you had to have a truck. You had to be an owner operator. And I said, I don't have a truck. I'm not ready to buy one yet. Maybe I will. But he said, go over and talk to them and just see what they say. So I went over there, and no interviews, no application, no nothing. They agreed to hire me. And I said, but I don't have a truck. And they said, we've got an old yard truck out there. And every day we have trailer spots we can't get to. We have missed pickups. We really need another truck on the road. And they said, you can rent it from us every day until you get your own truck. So I said, all right, I guess that works. So right then, he hands me a stack of bills, freight bills. I don't even know what a freight bill is at this point. I've never seen one. And he said, this stuff's got to go. It's still on the dock. And I said, well, what do you mean it's on the dock? He said, well, here's an empty trailer number. Go get the tractor. Go pick up this trailer, put it to the dock. Go find these loads on the dock and get them on your trailer and get going. We got to get this stuff delivered. I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't have any local maps.
And there was no GPS or
Oh,
anything
no,
else.
no GPS. I have no local maps. I don't know what the hell I'm out there just trying to find a damn trailer. That was challenging enough. Here's how simple it was. Somewhere on this paperwork was a trailer number when the empty I'm supposed to go get. I'm so ignorant of this whole process. I was sweating bullets at this point, but that's how I got started. It was a rough start.
Yeah, but it taught you a lot.
It did.
That was
trial by fire, no doubt.
Well, and one of the statements I can't stand hearing. Well, that's trucking. You're alongside the road, and it's like, well, what went wrong?
That's right.
My rear tandems all of a sudden start wobbling in my side mirrors.
That's a bad sign.
Yeah. Being 112,000, getting ready to drop it down a 2-lane road where the river's 150 feet below you, and oncoming traffic is.
It's never going to happen. But if you look at the airline model, if you want to be a commercial pilot, you come out and you start flying little puddle jumpers on local routes. And there's a reason for that. Right. One, the equipment itself, but two, on a local route, you get a lot more experience than you do getting into a plane in Washington, D.C. and flying it to China. There's not a whole lot of activity. It's no different than, and it's not much different than taking a load from the East Coast to the West Coast where you're going to spend 3 or 4 days on the interstate. So we should really push harder to have a path where you start in local and regional operations and you get a lot more usable experience a lot faster that way. But like I said, I was backing into 20 to 30 really lousy docks a day. These weren't docks at big warehouses with lots of room and 37 doors. I was backing into docks that had been built in the 1920s before we even had trucks.
Well, is that why LTLs make good money?
Yeah, it's a big part of it. Two reasons: supply and demand. LTL gets you home every night. Well, local LTL. You can do long distance LTL too, but it's more rare. Local LTL.
Regional.
Yeah, those were when we had all the big LTL carriers. The progression at an LTL carrier was when you got hired, you were probably getting hired to work on the dock. And then when you worked on the dock long enough and you had seniority, you could apply to be a driver, and you were put on the extra board for the line haul runs from terminal to terminal. And you might do that for years before you got a shot to bid on a local P&D job, but those were the jobs everybody wanted.
Or you could get yard jockey.
Yeah, right. That was another one. You were probably a yard jockey in there somewhere too.
Kevin, that was my first. You say about your experience when to drive a tractor trailer. I had group school bus and trash trucks and straight trucks prior to that. But where I was working on the dock, the jockey wasn't in, and they said, "Go over and get that trailer and put it in the dock."
oh, let me give you another one of my first stories like that too. So now, I trial by fire, but I got pretty good at this pretty quick, and I was hungry. I would take any work they would give me, anytime. I don't care if you've got a trailer spot that's got to go at 2:00 in the morning. I'll take it. And they knew that. So it was Christmas Eve. We were still delivering freight in the local, and during the middle of the day, I was talking to dispatch, and he said, "Hey, I know it's Christmas Eve." He said, "But you always want to work." He said, "Do you want to take a line haul run tonight?" And I said, "A line haul run? To where?" And he said, "We've got one going to Cincinnati." And he said, "You can do it anytime tonight if you want." He said, "Actually, you could do it anytime over the holiday." He said, "That trailer just needs to be there when we come back to work on whatever day." I said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And I figured I was going to.
For you, that was long haul.
Well, exactly. This is a big. But here's the problem. So I accept it over the phone while I'm working. It's Christmas Eve, so they button things up and go home. So when I get back that night, the only people that are there are the dock workers that need to work the last couple trailers that come in that day, which was mine was one of them. And the dispatch told me, "Your bills will be in the mailbox. Just grab the bills and go." And I should have cued in on the fact that he said bills, not Bill, bills. I didn't catch that. So I come back at midnight and I pull the freight bills out of the box or the manifest, and I said, "There's 2 trailers here. I wonder which one I'm supposed to take." Yes. Then it dawned on me.
Those.
That trailer looks really, really short. Is that the one I'm supposed to take? And then I realized, oh God, I got to take both of these. I have no idea how to hook up doubles. Nobody's ever shown me how to hook up doubles. They don't teach you that in driving school. Maybe they do now. They certainly didn't teach me about doubles.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
So now, not only did I have to figure out how to hook up doubles, if you would see our yard, the dock itself is like elevated up on a hill almost. So you're always kind of backing uphill to get to your trailers. One of my trailers is in the dock, and one of my trailers is out in the yard. Now, I've never been told about, heavy trailer front, back. I don't know but logically I kind of know because I've pulled boats and that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to get that heavy trailer in the front, which is the one out in the yard. And then I got to figure out how to get the one that's up in the dock. And the parking lot is all gravel and uphill. And I don't have a pinhole hook. I don't have a pinhole hook on this tractor. I think I finally got them all hooked up and got out of there by about 2:30 in the morning. That was another trial by fire.
What could go wrong?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and I do remember this. I'm not exactly sure how this occurred. I could probably figure out if I thought it through. So I finally get the dolly in place. I back up my front trailer to the dolly. Now, I hadn't ever really pulled pups around. We pulled 45-footers in the city. So now I'm trying to back up this pup, which is, but again, I've pulled boats, so it's not that big of a deal. I finally get it up to the dolly, get the dolly hooked to the front trailer, get it backed under, and I can remember I must not have set my park brake, because once you hook to that trailer, you're not going to roll away. And I forgot to just set the park brake completely in the tractor. So I get back there, I crank up the dollies, I hook up the airlines and open the valve, and guess what happens? The whole thing starts rolling away because I don't have the brake set. The only thing that was holding us there on this hill was the brakes of the back trailer. Once I opened the valves, there it goes. Luckily, there was nothing out there, and it just rolled out into the parking lot and stopped as I'm chasing it through the parking lot.
Yeah, which would have been like jumping onto a moving truck.
Yeah. So, Tom, let's do this. If you want to kind of continue. Now, here's the other thing you can do. You can call me on the show itself every day, and I'll work with you as much as I can. With the limited time we have sometimes on the show. But think about maybe just starting with that coaching program, and we'll get you started here.
And I have been, and I've been pondering that and trying to figure it all out, but at the same time still trying to find a doctor. I've literally, my wife has literally called at least 50 different
That's
places,
crazy.
and we're getting ready to fly out of state.
That's crazy.
We're getting ready to fly out of state and try and find a doctor that will do that.
See, here's the way I'm going to put this back on the government. If you create a program that's this complicated, then you damn well better have a list of doctors that I know I can go to and get this done. Why doesn't the government maintain that list?
And I don't know why. And I've asked that question. And,
because they're incompetent. That's what government is. And government is designed to be incompetent for a good reason. A constitutional government would work just fine. It's the fact that we keep asking the government to do all of this stuff for us. People go, oh, no, we don't. Yes, you do. I hear people all the time. We have groups in trucking that every time there's a little hiccup in their operation, they think the government needs to fix it somehow.
Well, you know what, and there's also something else that can go with that whole comment, and as we were talking, I'm not sure how old you are. I'm 58 years old.
61.
And okay, so we're in that same bracket.
Yeah.
In how we were raised and how we were.
All three of us are.
That's right.
Well, and we all three of us both, we all know that if you want something, you got to put the work in to do it. And
that's exactly right.
You got to live it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
It's nothing is expected. I'm not expecting, kids these days. Everybody gets a trophy. Not the best. Everybody gets a trophy.
Yep.
It's.
What we have here's what I do try to remind people of, though, that we did that. That wasn't the kids. The kids did not do that to themselves. We did that.
Exactly. And that's the scary part.
I know. So
I don't have children. And the reason I don't is because I'm petrified of what 20 years is going to be like.
Yeah.
Hopefully I see it, but
yeah.
The way I live my life and how
I don't know.
I live.
I think you're doing just fine.
Well, thank you.
All right, Tom, I'm going to cut you loose. I hope to hear from you again soon. Like I said, you can call the show all you want. I'll help you throughout the show. I can help you a lot more in the coaching program, and you're taking on a pretty big task. I think you're more prepared for it than most people, by far. But there's still a lot to do. And if you do it right and you do it in the right order, I say it all the time, I can just about guarantee your success. Let's go to Illinois. Dale, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call.
What's on your mind today?
I was wondering if you could look at one of my fuel. I got 2 fuel gauges reports. I'd like to look at DJ number 12s.
Did you happen to? You did. All right. I've got both of them here in front of me. All right. DJ 12 looks like a 21 Pro Star.
Yes.
Tell me this is an IS. What engine? ISX?
No, it's got the Cummins. I'm sorry, Cummins International A26 in it.
Okay.
So I wanted you to look at that and see, what that average cents per mile is on that, what the fuel average is in general, and then I want you to look at mine.
Yeah.
The other one I have, which is my truck.
I will. So first off, the lifetime on this truck, I cringe when I have to say this these days. This is a 2021 truck. This makes me insane. 5.8 miles to the gallon. This is just awful.
Holy smokes.
I know. This is just awful. The cost per mile, 64 cents a mile for fuel. Now, here's something else that tells me something about the truck. Doesn't tell me specifically. Henry, you'll get this too. This one, I believe, has to be an outlier. So I want to ask about this before I say something. The worst mile per gallon on this, is that some sort of an outlier? Is that a true full tank and we ended up with that fuel mileage, really? Or was that would like some sort of an out? Really?
Yep, everything is 100% as you see it, correct.
So you just broke a record. Henry, you'll understand this. You do the same thing. We look at a truck's average fuel economy. That tells us a lot. And if you look at our app, we put these things right there. Average fuel economy, 5.8. Best tank, 9.5. Were you bobtailing? That whole tank?
Which
9
truck are you on?
DJ12. Oh, you don't know because you don't drive this truck. But I'd have to believe if a truck gets 5.8 as the average, the only way you ever get 9.5, you'd have to be bobtailing. That's not even with an empty trailer. A truck that averages 5.8 with an empty trailer is probably going to do 8 if you're lucky, not 9.5. So that's odd to me, and so I'd want to dig more into that. But then we also show the worst tank, because these two tell me something. The range between the best and the worst tells me something. You have the biggest range I have ever seen, ever. 9.5 as your best, 1.8 as your worst. That's why something's got to be wrong with that tank. I don't think that could be a legitimate fuel up.
So Kevin, something to keep in mind that I experienced is the better a truck can do on fuel, I have found the bigger the swing is between the best and the worst. So like even on mine, my worst, well, there's an outlier where they were testing a regen system that killed that one. But other than that, the very worst one was 8.2 and the best was 13.4.
Right. So I consider all of your numbers outliers. No, I do. And the reason is because it's so far out of the norm that
I know why, so thank you.
Yeah, things change when you get. So I use this big spread actually differently. If I got a truck that's at 5.8 and I have this huge spread, that usually indicates to me there's something mechanically wrong with this truck. A blown charge air cooler will do something like this. When there's not much load on the truck, that charge air cooler isn't nearly as important. Put a big heavy load on this thing and my charge air cooler becomes critical. And if I've got a big leak, you're going to know it now. There are some other maintenance issues I can spot. So when I see just out of control numbers like this, it usually indicates some sort of really bad specs or a maintenance issue. And with this engine,
they're bad specs.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, that's what I mean. That the engine itself is the first bad spec. So, yeah, not much I can say other than I wouldn't want to own that truck if I didn't have to. Now let's look at your numbers, and you guys are doing the same operation, right?
No, I'm doing the power only stuff, and he's running
got it.
the
Okay.
dump trailer. But he gets the
Okay.
worst mileage.
So you want to talk about good customer service? While we're talking about this, Aaron looked at the records and he says the 1.81 was entered incorrectly. So we got to go fix that.
Okay.
And Aaron said, Dale, reach out to Aaron directly and he'll help you with this. That's what I thought. That number had to be an outlier. But even so, there's clear indications that there are some real issues. Okay, there was a missed fuel up entered right before this, and it shouldn't have been done that way. So we can fix that for you, and then we'll have better numbers. But they're not going to change that much. My answer on that truck's still going to be the same. That's one of the trucks you and I will talk about getting rid of. Now, your truck, lifetime 7.9. We're almost at 8 on the lifetime. In fact, on your 60-day, we are above 8. On your 30-day, we're actually above 9. What have you done?
Well, that's what I was wanting to talk to you about. And I was tickled to death to see this because after our coaching session yesterday, once I started seeing this, it just confirmed more what you were saying about reevaluating, being mad about the situation I was in with the contract and all that stuff that was going on with it, So if I can have these kind of numbers for the last 30 days doing that power only, I think that's phenomenal. And I think I can make it work no matter what, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
so this is a case where we talked about, I know you would love to get rid of all of your inefficient trucks at once and replace them. And it's really tempting when you look at what it would do to your bottom line for fuel and maintenance cost. But right now, I think that's too big of a risk in this environment. So what we do then is we get really picky and we replace the worst truck first. And then we operate for a while, make sure our cash flow is still good. We're getting the savings we had hoped for. Then we go pick the next worst truck, and we work our way through them. So I think you've identified the first truck we should be thinking about replacing.
Yes. Well, and I'm amazed. Just some of the tools that Henry, Joe, Alec, you. Suggestions that you guys have given me, trying to make this more efficient. This run that I'm doing right now, the numbers that I put up the last 30 days doing that is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is.
And the only thing that I did is I did find a small charge air cooler leak. I fixed it. I put some eco flaps on, and that's all I've done. And I would have never dreamt I'd got these kind of numbers with the non-aero day cab truck that I'm driving.
Yeah, you did something else, but this is really hard to identify. You may not even identify it in yourself. Somewhere in your operation, you've changed the way you drive this truck. It may be really subtle. You may not even realize it. But when you go from a 90-day of 7.9 to a 30-day of 9.3, it wasn't just mud flaps and a charge air cooler.
No. Well, that's correct. But I was pulling a dump all those times. In the last 30 days, I've done nothing but power only with a van. But like I've told you before, I have the fortune, the luxury on this run while I had it. I could drive 50 mile an hour on the 2-lane roads, and that's what I did all day long. I was at 50 to 51 mile an hour all day long.
And you still got the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. No, you're just so everybody understands, because a lot of times saying, the other truck's getting 5.8, this one's now getting 9.3. Your cost per mile on the 30-day is in the 40-some cent range. The cost per mile on that other truck is 64 cents a mile. The difference is somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 a year on the bottom line. That's huge.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, do you think there's any other things I could do to make my truck more efficient doing what I'm doing in the power only realm?
There might be, but that's not where I would focus right now. And
Okay.
here's why.
What should I do?
Here's why we're not going to focus on that right now. And Henry's aware of this. Henry, where you are today, when you can make an increase, which is difficult, the savings just aren't that big, are they?
No.
Because you're not going to pick up a
the
half
better you
mile
do, the
per
less
gallon.
it helps you.
Yeah, you're not going to do something to pick up a half mile per gallon where you are. But even if you do, the numbers on saving a half mile per gallon when you're already above 10 just aren't really that impressive. It's just the math.
No.
So you've done the hard work, Dale. You got this truck to 9.3. Man, I am so happy with that. Just leave it alone. We don't need to spend any more time on this particular truck. Now you need to spend your time on replacing that one truck. That should be your focus right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm over the moon too, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. So that sounds like a good place to start.
Yep, that's what I'd be doing right now.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to share that with you.
Great stuff.
While you were in there, did Aaron look at mine? Did he find anything that was
I'm not sure if he did or
odd
not.
wrong with any of mine?
Yeah, but if you give him a call, he'll go through both of them with you.
Okay. Yeah, I sure will.
Here's what I'll do. I'm going to put you back in the queue, and we'll make that happen. So I'll put you back in the queue. We'll get you in touch with Aaron. We'll get that fixed. Let's go to Chicago. Shane, good morning. Henry, are you recruiting? Henry's not going to answer me. I think he is recruiting. Phone lines are slammed again. Shane, good morning. Uh-oh. Is anybody hearing me? Angie? Oh, Angie is saying I cut out. Cut out again. Maybe I need to reconnect. Let me see if this works. Let me check my internet. We are experiencing solar activity again today. Right now, we have got some solar waves hitting. I'm going to blame it on that. Angie, are you hearing me yet? Not responding on. All right. I am going to reconnect again. Seems to be a daily thing. If you're on hold, don't go anywhere. I will be right back.
Ready to connect. Click connect to show now. It as the host. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Call-in Studio web interface. Audio recording is on.
15 years. Well, I was out
All right.
fixing electrical problems. I ran 5.
All right, I'm back, guys.
But
Oh, Kevin, you're back? I was just taking over the show.
Yeah, well, good.
yeah,
That's good to know. That
Yeah,
you
you
got.
had told me to do that at the beginning, so
That's right. Well, thank you.
I figured you took your time to leave.
I fell off my chair. Actually, I don't
All
have.
right.
Actually, I don't have a chair. I was standing. I'm blaming it on the sunspots again.
Why not?
Yeah. All right. So
Anyway,
continue on.
We have a caller on here that used to work at the Cleveland plant building the truck,
Ah, there you go.
where my truck came from.
Oh, by the way, the last call with Dale, you'll be happy to know the truck getting really good fuel economy is a Western Star.
Say that
sounds
again?
like one of y'all beating a bear now.
Henry, what are you at the blacksmiths? You getting your horse reshoot today or what?
You don't want to know.
That's what it sounds like. All right. So I was saying you would be happy to know the last call, the truck that's getting the really good fuel economy is a Western Star.
There you go.
That's right. All right, you guys continue on. Whatever you were talking about,
Well-
I'll jump in.
I'll stop beating the bearing
It's
in.
okay. Right. But what I called about is the fact that you're talking yesterday about parking. I'm for definitely no more government control. I mean, they got way too much as it is. But we need to have a way so that all these shippers and receivers, in my opinion, for every one dock door they got, they need to have one spot that a truck can stay overnight.
Ain't going to happen.
Normally, it's their fault.
I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen. You just drop that one completely.
I know that.
And I'll give you a good experience why. I happen to be I have a warehouse.
Right.
I have one dock door, but I can't promise that I have a truck parking spot, and there's nothing I can do about that.
Oh, I understand. Lots of them, their space is all taken up by warehouse, you know. But I just for me, that is if I had a wish.
Yeah, I get it.
Because
but
they are normally the ones. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just not I get it, but it's not a practical wish. Never going to happen. There's just way too many. It's out of most business owners' control.
Right. Well, to me, it's like normally they the ones that hold us up and get us behind, even though drivers are who gets blamed for everything. And it just will be a nice thing if they was a promotion or something to do it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Well,
and here's the other thing. If we wanted it to happen or think it could, and it just can't. It's just not practical for way too many reasons. But even if we wanted it to, guess how we would have to enforce this? It would have to become a government regulation. That's
I know. That's why
right. We just don't want that.
And then you got to enforce it.
Correct.
So how do you enforce it?
And you can't.
Right.
You're right. That's what I mean.
Kevin, I'll go controversial on this.
All right.
There's no shortage of truck parking any more than there is a shortage of drivers. There's a shortage of parking for free.
That's not controversial in my book. That's the truth.
No, but it'll be controversial.
I can find parking, but I do hoppers, so a lot of times I say, well, we load and unload.
Yeah, I have been saying forever, if we want better parking options, just be willing to pay for parking, and our parking will improve immediately.
The reality of the situation, I could park my truck and trailer in Times Square. It would cost a lot.
I ain't gonna.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. There is a cost of parking. We've been fortunate for years, decades, that the truck stops have bared the burden of providing most of the parking, but it's really expensive. And you think about that entire parking lot, all the cost that goes into that. We just heard yesterday. I did a space about this yesterday. And this is a real number. I went and checked. This is not even outrageous. To put in one truck parking space, if it doesn't already exist, the average cost is between $100,000 and $150,000.
Well, I'll hit you with another figure, Kevin. The last figure I saw, and it's old now, the average cost to maintain that spot
That's what I mean.
There is $23 per day.
That's insane. If I had to pay $150,000 to create this asset of a spot, and then it cost me $23 a day, I've got to charge like $75 a day to make any money on that.
And here's the thing on that.
Worse is the trash. Drivers don't mind trashing anything.
You don't even get us started on that one. Not only
we're our worst enemy.
Not only do the trash issue, but the truck stops have been turned into demolition derbies.
Well,
oh yeah.
The other way I look at this, Kevin, and this is 4 years ago now. I was up in Portland, Maine, and in a car, and it cost me more to park a car for 4 hours.
Oh yeah.
Than it cost me to park a semi for 24.
Exactly.
But the other side of that is when you get into a city, how many car parking spots would be there and available
if
it was free?
Now, I'm going to say something, and I think most people know I'm pretty anti-government. I have a pretty
that's
strong,
two of us.
yeah, I have pretty strong opinions about this, and I think everybody knows. But I think people might be surprised. There is something I believe the federal government could do that would make this problem significantly better, and it wouldn't cost us, the taxpayers, anything. That's my biggest problem with government intervention. Well, the biggest problem is they're just incompetent. They're going to screw things up, and there's a reason. My second is we can't keep asking the government to solve anything. We're $34 trillion in debt, and we add another trillion every 100 days. That is insanity, and we can't keep asking the government to do anything. It's broke. That's the biggest reason we should just stop. But I actually have an idea on parking that the government could make huge improvements, won't cost us anything. You curious as to what it is?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever driven on the Ohio Turnpike?
Possibly.
Well, you,
sure.
Henry, how about you?
Not many times, but I think I know where you're going.
How is it that the Ohio Turnpike, I've asked 4 people in the last 2 days, and they haven't been on the Ohio Turnpike very much. That's odd. It's right there in the middle of the country. I lived a half a mile away from it my whole life growing up, and I drove on it a lot when I first started driving. The travel plazas, they call them, on the Ohio Turnpike are fantastic. Right. Great parking, clean, free showers, clean bathrooms. They even have little RV parks with hookups. They've got lanes set up for triples to park. They've got lanes set up for heavy haul. They're real, and they're always kept clean.
New York Thruway's that way too.
All the turnpikes are. The travel and you don't have to. Technically, you're not getting off the interstate. You don't have to get off an exit and go down into a truck stop and go through roads and traffic. It's right there. It's a travel plaza right on the road itself. It's only legal on turnpikes. Who runs turnpikes? The government does. Why is it okay for them to have these travel plazas that are right on the interstate? Why can't we do that on a regular interstate? Because the government has a rule against it. That's why. Drop that rule.
Right. Well, yeah.
Let private industry build travel plazas on interstates just like we do on turnpikes.
Well, yeah, and the travel industry lobbies against that because they've made the investment in the real estate where they're at, and that would put any of them that are off an exit out of business. They lobby heavy against that.
The trucking group NATSO, the National Association of Truck Stop Owners, fights this tooth and nail.
Yep. And you want to know another interesting figure from studying that, Kevin? Of a travel center, which is what they call them now, 80% of their profits come in the front door, not the back door.
I know. Just drop that regulation. Let us build. Here's the other thing. Every time you see somebody try to build a new truck stop, what happens? The locals all fight against it. They don't want truck stops in their neighborhood.
And there's not enough money in it, or they'd put up the fight because they do that with Walmarts too. But Walmart can make enough money; they'll put up the fight to get in there.
Exactly. So I
saw that one where there was a truck stop and a Walmart vying for the same exit.
Oh yeah, and Walmart's always going to win.
The neighborhood wanted neither of them.
Right. Yep. So why not put the truck stops further out on the interstate where they're not bothering people?
You would think.
Well, my other thing for you, Kevin, is what is a NutriQ? Because I think I'm going to start trying to get into your coaching if I can listen and learn more.
Got it. So the NutriQ is really just a questionnaire. So you're going to log in online, and there's a lot of questions, and a lot of them are really weird. But every one of those questions tells me something about your health. So it's really a health evaluation. I can look at it, and I'll know your heart health, your metabolic health, your immune health, based on your symptoms. And sometimes you would think, well, that's an odd question. The one I always remember is, are you losing the outer third of your eyebrows? That seems like a really odd question, but there's a reason for that.
When you wouldn't be there for it, not that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, when you start to have thyroid issues, one of the symptoms is you will lose the outer third of your eyebrows. It's a pretty clear indication of a thyroid issue. So every question on there, and there's a lot of really weird stuff, and there's a lot of questions, but it's a really powerful tool to tell us where you are health-wise.
I got you. All right. Well, that's all I have. I appreciate both of y'all's time, and I will tell you, Henry, I'm probably one of the most pro Freightliner guys you'll ever meet.
There you go.
So I got a friend of mine. He got about 50 trucks, and he said a Freightliner is a poor man's way to be a millionaire. So, but
there you go.
I hope that y'all have a good weekend. Thank y'all for y'all's time and what y'all do.
You too. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Tennessee. Paul, welcome.
Howdy.
What's on your mind?
Henry, are you rebuilding your Jeep in the background or something, or panel beating it, or what?
Henry?
I guess he must be.
Henry?
No, I'm putting tires on a motorcycle.
Oh, are they steel?
I had to knock the axle in. I thought I had the phone muted when I did that.
Yeah, that's right. So the guy that's looking for a doctor for the DOT physical?
Yeah, it's not a DOT physical.
Oh, well, whatever. I didn't hear the first bit.
Oh, so
DOT physical.
no, he is disabled. He lost his leg above the knee, and one of his arms are a little shorter from a motorcycle accident. But this goes back to 1990. But because of that disability, he has to go through a special 4-hour exam. And he says he doesn't even mind doing that. They've been looking and looking. They can't find a doctor that's certified to do it. My point is, if the government has this program, they better keep a list of certified doctors.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'll still make the suggestion anyway, because Nemo's friend, Dr. John McGallagher, he seems to deal with a lot of this type of stuff.
you're right. That is a good place to start.
Yeah, because he knows how to deal with government bureaucracy.
Yeah, exactly.
Too, so,
Yeah, good point.
Red tape. So, I forgot what I was going to talk about. Steer axle weight. Joel posted a 13,500 or a 13,000 steer axle weight on his scale ticket the other day.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that don't know squat. So many people think 12,000 is it. They need to pull out the Ray McNally or just pull out a Google or something. Because if you got the appropriate tires and axle rating, it's 20,000 pounds. A lot of people think it's 12. So, yeah.
Yep.
And the other thing I was going to comment about is training. I think we should just chuck more people in the deep end. Quit putting warning signs on stuff and here's the truck, here's the keys. Get in there and show us what you can do. That's how I learned. I did ride around in a truck a lot when I was a kid, and then I found a guy that gave me the opportunity to learn, and the rest is history. So, yeah.
I kind of tuned out for a second there because I was replying to something online. It's Friday, and we're just about done here. I mean, Henry, you can recruit all you want because I'm about to turn the phones off in a second, so they won't be able to get through anyway. But here's, I'm sure everybody saw what happened yesterday, right? I didn't open with it because I didn't want to spend all day talking about it, but I'll make a couple comments about it now. Not really about what happened, but the results and where we've come as a country. Obviously, yesterday was a big political day and you know, history making, and we could go through all that. Everybody's talking about it. So You can hear it everywhere. But here's a reaction, and this has kind of always driven me crazy over the last couple of years. There are a lot of really talented people that I appreciate their talent. Musicians, I don't watch a lot of movies, but I watch some. So actors, musicians, I don't really watch any sports. But if I can appreciate somebody for their talent, why do I care what their politics are? I get politics are important, and they're certainly not to everybody. But I'm involved in politics, but I can still absolutely appreciate a musician or whatever that has wildly different political beliefs. Why would I care about that? Why can't I just appreciate them for their talent? And you actually,
Exactly.
we're in a world today where you'll actually be condemned or criticized for this. And I don't get it. But here's another one. I've been following this guy on X. The account is called Space Weather News. And the guy reports every day on space weather, the solar activity. There's some issues going on. I've been saying we should be watching this stuff. I do watch it. And this guy has excellent information every day. He's popular enough that he just reached 250 billion total views. That's a pretty big deal. Obviously, a lot of people find a lot of value in his information. But yesterday and today on his videos, he had the American flag flying upside down in the corner of his video. That was all he did. I've never heard him make one political statement ever, but I did see that little upside down flag. And he said the kind of messages he got, oh my God, I had no idea you were a conservative. I'm unsubscribing. I don't understand that logic.
Perfect.
You were willing to pay to get this guy's information. It's so good. You've been following him all this time. But now all of a sudden, just because you now know he's a conservative and he put that little flag in upside down, you're just going to unsubscribe from him. What an idiot. I'm not even going to call somebody ignorant at that point. You're just an idiot.
Right.
Well, it appears there was some Australian marsupials in the courtroom, I think. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, and you're the expert on marsupials.
Yeah, I know about critters.
That's right.
Yep.
All right, good stuff, Paul. We are going to move along. We're going to go to Florida. Tony, good morning.
Hey, Kevin, I had a question on Volvo, but I haven't been tuning in. I guess Joel's not here.
You know,
I'm looking at a 12-speed.
Henry and I know a couple things about Volvos.
Yeah. I figured.
I know we might be the B team today, but at least we're here.
Yeah. And that's what we know about the Volvo people. They're not.
That's right.
A 12-speed wouldn't be that bad, would it?
Well,
I mean, of course, the salesman won't say.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean when you make the term it wouldn't be that bad?
Right.
A lot of that depends on what gear.
We want it to be right, but here's the thing.
I guess you can't get a 14-speed with the 247.
I don't know if you can or not. There's so many damn restrictions. But here's what we're looking at. The only reason to go to the 14-speed really is if we're trying to build that truck with a really high gear ratio and pull 3 gears out to run at highway speeds, and we need the startability at the bottom. If we're building a truck and there's no startability issue, the 12-speed could be perfect. And if we don't need that big wide 3 gears all up at the top that we can run in, but with a 12-speed, we can certainly get 2 highway gears to run in.
Because when you're shopping used, you're not necessarily going to find a 2.15 with a 14-speed in used. So
why not?
Got to sort of just take the best deal that you could find, and I've found one,
Okay.
and that's what it is. It wasn't a 13, it wasn't a 14, it was a 12 speed, and I don't hear you talking about that a lot. Are you still running that chipper, Kevin?
No, I had it for a week. I took it back.
The wood chipper?
But-
Henry must have borrowed it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Henry's working
the
on
neighbors
motorcycles.
decided to leaf blow.
Oh, there you go. So, Tony,
what was that? You know those signs I've been talking about in Alabama, the safety signs? Yeah.
what I was going to say is, we look at the whole truck, not just is it a 12-speed. There's some really well-spec trucks out there with 12 speeds. Just depends on what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. All right. Don't know. They've got this thing now in Florida. I don't know if you talked about that already, but you can't renew your tag, some kind of system failure until after June 14th. The upgrade to their system, but they're giving you an extension, a month extension. Thank God. I got hit with that this morning. My tag expires tonight, and the tag agencies I use say that, yeah, they say, well, we can't renew. Our system's down until that, but thank God there's an extension. I didn't know if you knew about that. That's pretty important for like Matt and I don't know, anybody in Florida. So yeah,
I did not know about that. Thanks for
I
the PSA.
I don't see how you could buy a new truck at all. I don't see how you can buy any truck, new or used, with that going on. Actually, right now in Florida.
I can't make
anyway,
an intelligent
yeah,
comment because I have no idea. 247 could be fine if we look at all the other specs and we look at the operation, and it may be just fine, or it may not be. I don't know.
Yeah, and of course I'm supposed to get it before they service it and run a rig dig on that unit, right? Especially since I know that they just did $8,000 worth of repair on the.
No, hold on. I don't want to confuse people. We run the rig dig. It's one of the very first steps, and we don't care if the truck's at that point. We're not. No, let me say this: if you're shopping like truck paper or something like that, that truck's already been serviced. If it's in the truck paper, it's been serviced. I can almost guarantee it.
No, this is Volvo Tampa.
It doesn't matter. If it's in the truck paper, at 99% of the time, it's already been serviced. Maybe even a higher percentage than that. We got to get the truck before it's ever listed. We got to get the truck when the dealer's buying it at the auction. Because the first thing they do is take it back and service it. Before they ever list it. So there's nothing wrong with using the truck paper to find the market and know what's out there. But ultimately, if we want to buy a truck properly, we need a relationship with a dealer and a salesperson who's going to go out and find that truck for us at auction. If it's already on their lot, it's already serviced.
Yeah, Rory is saying that that if it's at auction, there's no way he's going to touch it because, that it's already wrecked pretty much. But I think I remember you saying that if you can get that good of a deal, with a clean rig dig or not, you like there's times where you just don't care how, to run an oil sample or run a check on it. That's, you can make that money back in a month.
Sometimes,
don't worry about the
sometimes I can take more of a risk. If we're an established business and we're replacing trucks, or certainly if we've got multiple trucks, we have less risk in every truck we buy. But remember, I work with a lot of people who are buying their very first truck. I will not let them take that kind of a risk unless they just tell me, look, I got money. It's not that big of a deal. If something goes wrong, I can handle it. Okay, well, then we'll take a little more risk. But a lot of times I've got to do everything I possibly can to minimize the risk for that person buying their first truck.
Right. So this truck is spec'd pretty well, but I do know that they put $8,000 into some kind of I forget what he called it, in between the engine and the front of the transmission. Can't remember what he called that.
The only thing in between those
Something
two is
electronic. And
well, the clutch is in between, but I'm not sure what else
is what?
The clutch. But I don't know what else. Unless he's talking about
so
it. Is this an auto shift?
Too much of
yeah,
a
of
risk?
course it is. It's a 12-speed auto shift. Yeah, there's some shifting. It's a centrifugal clutch. There are some electronics. So I'm assuming that's what he's talking about.
All right. Well, we'll take a look at it later.
Yeah, if you're interested in this truck and you're willing to buy it without an oil sample, because you're not going to be able to get one at this point, just go run the rig dig right now. That would be your next step. And remember, every step, what we're looking for, we are looking for a reason not to buy this truck. So when we pull the rig dig,
Kevin?
If there's a title brand on there, well, then I'm just scratching it off my list. I don't even want to know what the title brand is. I just don't want to mess with this truck. If it's been in an accident, and we'll know that on the rig dig, I'm probably going to move along. I'm looking for a reason not to buy the truck so I can keep working till I find the truck that there is no reason not to buy it. I'm trying to find a reason in that rig dig not to buy this. Then if I can't get an oil sample, if I can get an oil sample, I'm looking at the oil sample as a reason not to buy it. Here's one. High fuel dilution. I'm not messing with this thing. No way. It's just off my list. There's too many trucks for me to go buy. I'm not taking that chance. Then I can pull an ECM report. High idle time. It's off my list. High regens. It's off my list. I'm not looking for a clean report. I'm looking for something that says don't buy this truck.
Kevin?
Yes.
The interrupt you part on the clutch deal that we're back on. The centrifugal clutches were gone with the Ultra Shift. They're electronically controlled clutches.
Okay.
And it's a regular clutch on the Eatons, except for the new Endurant and the Volvo and the Detroit are both pneumatically controlled throwout bearings.
So that could be the electronics they're talking about here that control that clutch then.
Could be.
And you're recommending putting in a lot more work on research, not just going, because I want to.
It's up to you.
Relationship I'm building with my local.
Yeah. No,
I don't want to go to, say, Iowa and get the exact truck that I want.
When I have, systems or processes, if you do everything in that process, it's been designed to minimize risk. If you choose to skip any of those steps, just know it's just adding to your risk. And that might not be a bad thing. I have bought many trucks where I don't go through my entire process. But I do know and again, when I'm starting somebody brand new, unless they have a whole lot of cash to burn, I'm going to try to convince them to take every step in the process to minimize risk as much as we can.
And this is on the heels of you asking for my address. Remember that?
Yes.
If I ever thought about rid of this tack car, well, now it's getting to be one thing after the other, and I threw another $1,500 into a temperature sensor on the CPF, and now the transmission goes to surging when you put it in D at a dead stop. You better not stand in front of it. And the windshield wipers were stuck on, and just weird stuff too. So has that changed, or you still need my address?
I need your address.
I think that had something to do with replacing it with a Tesla, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll let you go.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Texas. Kevin, welcome.
Hey guys, I have a 23 TC with a 243 and a 12 speed, and I do fine, and I pull a hopper bottom, so I'm 80,000 all the time. With regards to the toll, I kind of got cut off a little bit because Angie put me in the queue, so I can't listen to you guys, to the show and her.
Okay.
But Love's in Oklahoma, they own just about every travel plaza on that tollway on the Oklahoma, in Oklahoma. So that maybe they're starting to get a little bit better with letting privately owned businesses have business or run business on the turnpike.
No.
You're never going to be anything more than the government.
Hold on. The turnpikes already allow that. There's lots of third-party businesses in these travel plazas on turnpikes. The issue here is turnpikes are the only place you can build those travel plazas. I'm saying we should allow them to be built on interstates, not turnpikes, not toll roads. Right now, the only place I know of them are on toll roads. There's a law against building a travel plaza like that on an interstate. You can't do it. You're not allowed. It's illegal.
Well, most of the ones I stop on are right off the interstate. I mean, you get off on the exit, like I live in Ranger.
Right, but that's what we need to, and those are fine. But why can't we build a travel plaza on an interstate like we build travel plazas on toll roads where you don't get off the road, you don't exit? Many of them on the turnpikes or toll roads are built in the middle of the two travel lanes.
Yeah, they are in the middle.
Correct. Why can't we do that?
Of them are in the middle in Oklahoma.
Why can't we do that on interstates?
Well, there might not be enough. Like I'm running on 20 westbound right now in Weatherford, and even all the way out there, there's not enough room to build a truck in the middle of.
They're not all in the middle. They're
on
toll roads. They're not all in the middle. When they can be, it's really nice. They were planned that way when they built the road itself. But there are toll roads that have one on each side. If we can build them in the middle, great. But if we can't, we could put one on each side. They do it on the toll roads.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. There's one on each side too, without even having to get off.
Correct.
I mean,
that's what I mean.
Off of the right-of-way lanes, but
you're not you're not exiting down to surface streets and then driving to a truck stop. There's a distinct difference. We all know the difference. And I'm saying, why can't we build those types of stops on the interstates? And we can't because the government has some law against it, but why? And whatever the reason was, maybe it's not a good reason, or maybe we need to rethink that.
Well, I don't think the government has any good reason for most of the laws.
That's my point.
Or especially regulations.
Yeah, that's kind of my point.
Right. But I was going to ask, that upside down flag, is that something to do with? I thought that the upside down flag was you were pretty much anti-American.
No.
If that's the case,
no. I've seen a lot of people compare this to burning a flag. No, there's a clear reason you fly the flag upside down when you are in distress and need help.
Right. Well, I knew
it's
that.
It's not anti-American at all.
On that particular page.
No, he's not being anti-American. Yesterday, this became a thing. A lot of people were flying the flag upside down. They're saying the U.S., us as a country, we are in distress. It's not anti-American at all.
Okay, well then I was just. Well, we kind of are in distress with what happened yesterday.
That's the point.
Make up a statute of limitations that's been gone for a few years now, and they want to try to turn it into a.
No, not try. They did
felony.
it. They didn't try. They did it.
No, I know all 34 counts. All 34 counts, which is ridiculous.
Well, that's why people are flying. It is a drastic measure to fly the U.S. flag upside down. It is a really drastic measure, but it is not anti-American, and it's not like burning a flag.
Okay, well then I was misinformed, and I thank you for enlightening me on that.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people confused about that yesterday, and some people still believe that you shouldn't do it. That technically you're not really in distress and asking for help, but in a lot of people's mind, we are in distress and we are asking for help.
Well, I mean, it's my opinion, and I posted it on my Facebook. For everybody that's happy or glad or however you want, whatever other word you want to use to describe it, that President Trump got convicted on a trumped up charge. Congratulations and thank you, because you just put him back in office.
It's really possible. We'll see.
2024.
Yeah,
there's so
really.
There's so many people that get railroaded by the law, or they know someone that has that. And I mean, not only that, but if they can do it to someone of that stature, who can't they do it to? And our Constitution was not made that way. You're supposed to get a fair shake with people of your peers.
So
this guy quit his job.
Let me say this. I still believe in our system. Our system has safeguards against this, and they will work even in this case. This will be reversed on appeal. Every attorney says it will be reversed on appeal. There were way too many reversible errors.
Absolutely.
So our system still works.
Absolutely.
This will be reversed, and that's how our system should work. We have checks and balances. The problem here is that this was not designed to punish somebody the way our judicial system should be. This was designed to keep him out of an election. And the process that we're going to go through will happen too late to resolve that. If there wasn't an election, all Trump has to do is just wait this out. The appeals will work. It will be reversed, and he just moves on. But we have this issue that it was used and it was timed to affect the election. And that's what's going to happen. Now, it may affect it totally the opposite of what they were hoping for, though. They may have just reelected him.
And I believe it will.
We'll see.
I mean, we do this in third world countries because they don't have any laws to
Correct.
protect people.
Right.
But we do this shit in other countries, in third world countries. We do it all the time.
Sure we do.
But it's supposed to be for the betterment of the people of that country, and not just to have some dictator that's going to, well, like the people...
You mean not have
all that? I mean, they.
Well, we could say what Kevin, we're watching right now is a dictatorial government right now.
I got to jump.
Right.
All right, see ya.
Right, exactly.
So we'll see. The process will play out, but I have to say that as much as I was watching it, I was still shocked. I was really shocked. I really thought that in the end, at least one juror would come to their senses and say, we can't do this. But they didn't. And I know I should have expected it. And I thought in my mind I was expecting it. But when I saw guilty on all 34 counts, I was shocked.
Well, I was shocked that the two attorneys didn't say, wait a minute, guys, this is not right.
Which two attorneys?
Okay, you don't tell us the crime. There was two attorneys on the jury.
Oh, yeah.
I figured those two would say, look, none of this is right.
Well, exactly.
None of this. We know the law.
Right.
We might not know the federal election laws, but we know how the law is supposed to be. And this guy is nuts.
There was so many
I
things
thought for
wrong with
sure
that, and
they would know that.
that's the point. Is that it will be reversed. Our system will work, but it's such an odd situation that they were able to use our system in a really negative way that is going to have huge repercussions for a long, long time. And here's the other thing.
Right.
There is no guarantee that he's going to win an election. None. And I really wish Republicans and conservatives would stop thinking that way. I really hope that they don't get overconfident again. I'm already hearing it's going to be a red wave. It's going to be a landslide. I would stop thinking that way. There are still, look, if the Democratic Party is this desperate to try to pull off what they just pulled off and succeeded at it, what's to say they're not going to do something even more drastic to try to stop him?
It wouldn't surprise me.
And we have to remember,
That would not surprise me.
they are in power. They control our government right now. We just watched it in action.
Right. Yep. But well, anyway, Kevin, I'll leave it with that. You guys have a good weekend. All right.
All right. Thanks for the call. We are going to wrap it up. That's it for the week. We will see you back here next week. Have a great weekend. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the